Today, on the first episode of the Bone Barrel Podcast, we review 1996's Tales from the Crypt Presents Bordello of Blood. Later, we discuss the true crime tragedy of the Papin sisters. It's all here on the Bone Barrel Podcast. Oh my god, the anime is so wild. I can't wait till the next episode. It comes out like soon.
Dawn to dawn, huh?
Yeah, it comes out in a couple days.
I should watch it with the boys.
Now that I listen to it in English, I understand what they meant by bananas. They're talking about the ovaries because they hang like bananas.
Oh, is that what they were talking about?
Yeah, your banana organ.
My gosh.
Your banana organ.
That shit was too much. You got fucking ghoul demons fucking tearing apart rapist robots.
Aliens.
Some chick strapped down with her snatch out in the air and fucking... They're trying to hypnotize her into being horny, and dude, I'm like, what the heck is going on? Like, so...
I told Jess to watch it, and she said she was going to. I said, make sure you tell Taylor before you start watching this, because if he hears it, and she's like, he doesn't care what I watch. I was like, he's gonna care this one.
Yeah, he'll probably insist.
She's like, gobble that dog. What are you listening to over there?
Taylor would probably love it. All right, so we're here. We're finally doing this. It's about frickin' time, Richard.
Yeah.
Richard. So welcome to the Bone Barrel Podcast. My name is Brian. With me is my host,
Richard Jones.
And we're super stoked to be here. The way that we'd like to structure this show is into two main segments. The first segment will be called Horror Reels, like film reels. This segment will largely be a retrospective of horror films and TV shows.
And the second part is going to be called Real Horrors, where I discuss true crime, such as murder, kidnappings, or missing people.
Yeah, I'm super stoked too because I like true crime. I just never take the time to like pursue it in any capacity like I do horror. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I'm pretty stoked to listen to whatever you've got. And I guess we just get right into it. Yeah, it's time to jump into our first segment. This is Real Horrors, where we talk all things
horror reels.
Or is this real horror? Ah, shit. Yeah. Welcome to our first segment. This is Horror Reels, and we're here today to be discussing a film that is near and dear to my heart. It's 1996's Tales from the Crypt Presents Bordello of Blood. I was about 11 or 12 years old and I owned this on VHS, and I just loved it so much. As a kid, I was always super terrified of the Crypt Keeper. So as a 10, 11-year-old kid watching Bordello of Blood, it was like this perfect marriage of like, I'm growing up, and so it's like not as like scary anymore, and it's also enticing because of, let's be honest, because of the nudity, and because of the lighthearted horror. It was a perfect transitional movie for me. You had the Tales from the Crypt TV show on HBO. Tales from the Crypt, the series, ran from 1989 to 1996, and it spawned a movie in 1995. It's called Demon Knight. It does fairly well. It opens up to mixed reviews, but it's become a cult classic, and it doubled its money that it cost production-wise back in the day. It does well enough that the studio wants a sequel. Now, what had happened is they had planned a trilogy of films. And like the TV show, each one was going to be a different story. There's even a post-credits scene at the end of Demon Knight where the Crypt Keeper pops up and he's like, hey, if you enjoyed this one, our next movie is going to be called Dead Easy. So they're promoting this movie Dead Easy. So what happened is Dead Easy was supposed to be this New Orleans-based zombie voodoo movie. The production team was in pre-production on this movie. They were out scouting locations to shoot this thing, and they got a call from Universal saying, stop scouting locations, stop spending money, come home, we're not going to do Dead Easy anymore. Now, what had happened is that one of the executive producers of Tales from the Crypt, his name is Robert Zemeckis. You probably know him best. He directed The Polar Express.
Oh, wow.
You've seen that? Okay.
Yeah.
He made the Back to the Future movies, Castaway.
Wait, what?
Yeah, 100%. He directed all three Back to the Future movies.
The same person that did The Polar Express did Back to the Future.
Yeah, directed it. Directed both of them.
Wow.
Castaway, Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Ooh.
Right? He's a very well-crafted filmmaker. So he's one of the executive producers of the TV show Tales from the Crypt. And so Universal is making the second Tales from the Crypt movie, and there's a new company in town. There's a new production company in town called DreamWorks. And they're spearheaded by Steven Spielberg, who, like I said, took Zemeckis in under his wing back in the day. So he's kind of like a mentor to him. And Spielberg and DreamWorks are coming around going, hey, Robert, like, why don't you leave Universal and come start making movies for us, you know? And Universal's panicking, and they're going, oh, Robert, what do we do to convince you to stay? And he says, you know, I wrote this script back in college with Bob Gale, another filmmaker, screenwriter. I can't.
For some reason that name sounds familiar.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly what he does. I wish I did. But him and this guy, Bob Gale, had written this script back in the mid-'70s in college called Bordello of Blood. And he says, you know, you buy this from me and you make a movie out of it, I'll stick around. Universal said absolutely. They bought the script for $500,000. And so to them, they're going, we invested this $500,000. We're going to make this movie. So from the start, the way that this movie was made, it wasn't something that was made out of love and passion. It was a business move going, we need to keep this director in our studio. Oh yeah, we'll buy your screenplay and turn it into a movie. Just stick around and keep making us money. Nobody wanted to make this thing. And the entire production was plagued with problems from the beginning. But we'll get into it as we talk about it more and more. Let's just start. So the film opens, right? And there's no Tales from the Crypt intro to start. Which is a huge bummer to me. Every Tales from the Crypt story, you know, as far as the iteration that we're watching, starts with the intro, coming in on the mansion and then going through the mansion and down to the crypt where he is, or he pops out of the coffin. They did the opening Crypt Keeper segment, the story, and then they did a Crypt Keeper segment to close. For whatever reason, Bordello of Blood doesn't do this. The movie starts and we fade in, and it's a zooming helicopter shot over the forest in the middle of the day. And at the bottom of the screen, it says Tierra del Fuego. Tierra del Fuego is a group of islands, and it's at the southernmost point of South America, right? So if you think about it, like globally, looking at it, like where North America and South America would be, and then way down at the bottom, towards the bottom of the globe, at the tip of this thing, that's Tierra del Fuego, and it's a group of islands. And there's even a town there right on the water. The locals call it the end of the world.
Oh, wow.
Because beyond this group of islands, it's ocean, and then, what is that down there? Antarctica? It's just nothing, right? I know, given the budget that they had and the locations that they chose to film, you know, they didn't... But the way that this movie starts, you're given a 3-second shot of some forest, and it says Tierra del Fuego, and then it cuts right into dudes on horseback in the middle of the forest. There are no establishing shots to show like how isolated we really are, that we're at one of the 4 corners of the world, at the end of the world. Like, it's just this 3-second helicopter shot, and hey guys, Tierra del Fuego. And then we just jump right into the movie, right? They actually shot this movie in Vancouver because of union disputes.
Oh, so it wasn't that Tierra del Fuego.
Yeah. That's so they got a helicopter shot of some land in Vancouver, BC, and then they're like, okay, it's South America. Here you go.
Oh, so they didn't even record the.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Oh, so this isn't actually what Tierra del Fuego looks like.
No,
this is Vancouver, BC.
Well, and then it's funny because it's like the climate in Tierra del Fuego is like considerably colder, is what I had read, and so it's like when this movie starts and these guys are on horseback in the middle of the forest. And they've got some like fog machines going, and I think it's to make it look colder. I'm not really sure. These guys look sweaty to me, but I don't know. So that's, and we're 3 seconds into the movie, so that's a lot of fun. But so we get that overhead shot. This is Tierra del Fuego, and we go into the woods, and there's these men on horseback, and they're led by a fella named Vincent. Now Vincent is played by this actor named Phil Fondacaro. This is what I know him from best, but he's certainly been in a ton of movies and TV shows, just a ton of stuff. I feel silly saying that, but he's a little person.
By little person, you mean he has dwarfism?
Yeah. Or
dwarfism is usually like the people that you see, like, for example, the guy who plays Tyrion in Game of Thrones.
Yes,
He
he was an elf.
Yeah, he is dwarfism.
Yeah, he's the fucking man. I can't remember his name, but he's so funny. Gosh darn it, I can't. But yeah, the dude from Game of Thrones, Phil Fondacaro. He's somebody that you've seen him before. It's just hard to say where from. This is where I know him from best. So he's leading this group of treasure hunters, and the rest of his crew speaks Spanish. He's the only American. And they're going through the forest, and they're coming across, skeletons draped across, spears and shit.
By the way, the name is Peter Dinklage.
Peter Dinklage, thank you. Frick. Okay, I couldn't remember that guy's name. Gosh darn it. Okay, so Phil Vondacaro, he plays Vincent, and he's leading these guys through the jungles of Tierra del Fuego, and we're filming in Vancouver. But Vincent has a map that he's looking at, and it's a treasure map, and his main scout with him, the guy that's leading the rest of the men who are likely locals, his name is Miguel, and Miguel comes up on him on horseback, and he's going, they say that there was an ancient treasure buried out here, 400 years ago. It's got to be quite the treasure for someone to come way out here to hide it, or for some gringo to come and try to dig it up. Vincent is on horseback looking at the map, and he goes, you're a smart boy, Miguel. For that, I'm going to let you have a little bit of what we find. And he goes, yeah, remember you say that. And Vincent goes, oh, I will. And then he goes, I'm going to let it have a little bit of you too. And then he just rides off all sly on horseback. And Miguel doesn't question anything about what just happened. They just go on.
Okay.
There's a huge red flag, and Miguel's like, all right, sweet, as long as we have an understanding. And so they eventually come to this statue. It looks like a statue of Christ holding the cross. But they come to this statue, and there's another skeleton draped in front of it. And Vincent tells the guys, okay, a few feet down, there's going to be this cavern. So they dig down to this cavern, and it is 150% a movie set. But
yeah, you can
it's
tell.
100%. But
back in the day, it probably didn't.
Well, this is 96, and it's a movie made on the cheap, but it's clearly a movie set, but it looks wonderful. This whole scene right here, where they get down to the cavern, just feels like old school Hollywood horror. So they get down to this cavern, and they're looking around, and there's a stone casket, and it's strapped. And Miguel's going, that doesn't look like a treasure chest. It looks like a casket. And Vincent's like, hell yeah, it is. Let's open this bitch up. Let's see what's going on. So they,
that's going to end well.
Yeah, for sure. And so they take machetes to the strap, because my people always carry machetes. I don't know if you know that, but
Machetes?
you never know when you're going to need it. You know what I mean? And so these guys whip them out, bam. And it's funny because they 150% hit a spider, by the way. There's tarantulas on the coffin, and they hit a spider. And I don't know if this thing was dead or fake or what, but I always saw that shit going, did they fucking... Anyway, so they knock this thing, they knock the straps loose, and they open it, and there's the dried up, decayed corpse of a woman. Miguel's like, what is this shit? And Vincent's going, boys, meet Lilith. And he's so stoked. And Miguel's going, you brought us all the way out here for a fucking stiff? He tells him, and he goes, this isn't no ordinary stiff, gentleman. He's like, this woman was the most horrible woman in the whole world. I've been looking for her for 10 years, and I've been searching the four corners of the world to find the four pieces of her heart so I can give it back to her. And Vincent, busts out this box. It's a wooden, ancient-looking box, and it's got a divider into 4 sections, and in each section is a rotted piece of heart. So he pulls the dividers out. The heart pieces begin to merge, and we're treated to some wonderful 90s CGI. It's like the fakest looking electricity that you'd ever see. But once the heart comes together and we get a shot of the practical effects heart that they made, it really looks great. And this thing is beating. Vincent takes it out of the box, and he goes to the corpse, and he puts it in the rib cage, and all of the men are watching, and tendons from the corpse start to come up out of the corpse and start to wrap around the heart, and the heart is starting to merge on the inside, and Miguel's going, how are you doing that? And Vincent goes, what can I say, boys? I know how to turn a woman on.
I think I downloaded the wrong movie.
Yeah. So he goes, I know how to turn a woman on. And he puts this heart inside, and the tendons start merging, and it stops. And he's going, what the hell is going on? And he starts bashing on the corpse, and nothing's happening. He's like, shit. And he tells the crew, he's like, you know what, guys, pack it up. We're taking this with us. And Miguel's pissed, and he grabs him by the shirt and picks him up. And it's very comic book style, the way he's holding up this little person. And he's going, you piece of cheat. And he's about to punch him. And his people, his group of treasure hunters start yelling at him in Spanish. And they're going, boss, like, look at the coffin, look. They all look, and the coffin is dripping blood. He puts Vincent down, and they all come up on the coffin, and they open it up, and this chick is transforming, and she comes to life, and she shoots up out of the casket, and she just starts fucking smoking these fools left and right. The first guy, she reaches into his chest and rips his heart out and just starts eating it. It's so awesome and bloody and cheesy. Another guy throws one fella in front of himself so he doesn't die. She's just slaughtering these guys. And then Vincent comes out of the corner, and he's got this relic, and we're going to recognize it if we've seen Demon Knight. It's a relic in the shape of a key. It makes zero sense whatsoever that Vincent would have this key now. Jada Pinkett Smith doesn't have it anymore. Vincent does, and it's filled with the blood of Christ, and he shows it to Lilith.
Jada Pinkett Smith is in this movie?
No.
Or in the last movie?
Jada Pinkett Smith was in Demon Knight.
Wow.
Yeah, and Demon Knight is really great. The story follows a guy. He has the duty of guarding this key from the wrong people getting their claws on it. There's this ancient key. There are 7 of them. They were made at the creation of the universe by God. They were scattered across existence, and if the wrong person gets their hands on all 7 keys, then they can control, they can be God, basically. And so for thousands of years, the evil side of things have been pursuing these keys, and there's somebody assigned the duty of guarding these keys, and even during the time of Christ. And it's filled with the blood of Christ and with the blood of everybody that's been assigned the duty of carrying and guarding this key. And so it's like it has holy blood inside of it, and they use it to ward off demons. And so at the end of the movie, Jada Pinkett wins one for the good guys. She escapes with the key, and that's how the movie ends. Suddenly, you've got Bordello of Blood, and Phil Vondacaro has it, and he's in the middle of the jungle. It doesn't make any sense, but we're just, as the audience, we're just accept the fact that he has the key. So he's got the key, and he shows her, and he's like, "Hey, chill, baby." Right? And she tries to do it. I'm telling you, but it's awesome. And so she goes to grab the key, and she burns herself, and they establish whoever has possession of this key, they're in charge, and she will be submissive and listen to them. She'll be their slave.
Oh, God.
Lilith, this vampire. So he's telling her, he's like, "Hey, beautiful." And she's not pretty yet. She's still all zombified out, but he's telling her, "Hey, beautiful, if I give you one more, do you promise to be okay?" And so he gives her Miguel, the guy that let him out here. And you see her snake tongue shoot out, and she shoots her snake tongue at him, and you get him a shot of Miguel screaming, "Ah!" as he's trying to climb up out of the cave. And then we cut to the Crypt Keeper segment. And everything that we've been watching is a story that's being explained to the Crypt Keeper by the Mummy. Now, on a side note, the Mummy is played by William Sadler. He's the man. He's been in a ton of shit. I think he's playing a cop in the new Salem's Lot movie, but he was the main character in Demon Knight. He was on episodes of Roseanne. He's been in tons of shit. He's the man. He's playing the Mummy. So we get this nice intro where they decide to challenge each other in this crypt cafe. They decide to challenge each other to a game of rock, paper, scissors, and every time you lose, you get an appendage cut off. So they do their first round. The Crypt Keeper loses, and the Mummy just cuts his hand off, right? We're treated to that wonderful Crypt Keeper laugh voiced by John Kassir, and they decide that they're going to go for round 2, and they're both all in now. And so the Crypt Keeper turns to us, and he presents the story Bordello of Blood. And so we start at one of our main characters' homes. One of our main characters, her name is Catherine, and Catherine is a devout Christian, and she works for a mega church for this pastor named Jimmy Current. Catherine is played by Erica Eleniak. I don't know her from anything aside from this, but she was in Baywatch.
Oh. Okay.
So she's a devout Christian, and she's pedaling on the stationary bike, and she's all going, and she's listening to Jimmy Current, she's listening to a Jimmy Current sermon on her headphones. She's listening to a Jimmy Current sermon on her headphones. Holy moly. And she hears metal music playing from upstairs, and she goes upstairs all pissed off. It's her brother Caleb. And she goes knocking on his door, and he answers. Caleb is played by Corey Feldman. Corey Feldman is the fucking man. There's no getting around it. He's like the epitome of the 80s. He's been in a ton of movies that everybody's seen. He was in The Goonies. He was in The Lost Boys. He was in Friday the 13th, Part 4, the final chapter. It wasn't. But he was, a lot of people widely consider that to be the best one. He voiced Donatello in the original Ninja Turtles. Corey Feldman is the man, and so he plays her brother. He's all pissed that she wants the music down, and they kind of have a back and forth, and he's just kind of like, "Screw this, I'm leaving." And so he heads downstairs to leave, and she goes, "Where do you think you're going?" And he's going, you're not my mom, you're not my parole officer. I'm gonna go, go hang out with the guys, have some fun. And she's telling him, don't go out and get into trouble, please. And he's like, and he mocks her, he mocks her faith. And he's going, maybe I'm going to be sentenced to hell. And then he goes, well, I got news for you, sister. I'm already in hell. Okay, so.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, it's awesome. So we cut to a bar. We cut to one of our characters, Jenkins, and he's got a tattoo of the Crypt Keeper on his arm. So it's a nice little transition. So Jenkins is sitting at the bar, and Caleb and his buddies are playing darts. And it's your typical group of tough guy douchebags, just hanging out at the bar, getting drunk. The waitress comes, she's a very voluptuous woman, and Caleb takes her shot at hitting on her. She totally turns him down, hey, why don't you come back when you got some hair in your nuts, that kind of thing, So they all kind of laugh it off. Caleb and his friends raise their glasses in a cheers, and they go, Caleb tells them, here's to getting laid sooner or later, boys. We get a nice shot where they raise the glasses, and they pull the glasses down, and there's a guy standing there from behind the glasses, and it's Jenkins. Greasy biker, probably in his mid-40s, early 50s, looks tough as shit. He has this great little speech where he tells them he knows a place not too far where they can get the best piece of ass in the whole world. They've got girls that do things there aren't even names for. It's this wonderful little monologue that he just really just squeezes the cheese out of. He tells them this address, 325 Beaumont, and he tells them, ask for the Cunningham Wake. A couple of the guys in the group are like, what a bunch of shit. And Caleb, Corey Feldman's going, I think I know where I'm headed. And they're good, dude, what are you doing? And he's like, what do you think? I'm going to Cunningham Wake. And his buddy Reggie's like, oh, I'm in, and ducks out with him. And so Caleb and his buddy Reggie are driving out to this big mansion out in the middle of nowhere, trees and woods and swampy looking woods, all around. And it's the middle of the night. We get a nice lightning crash on the house, and they knock at the door. They're greeted at the front door by McCutcheon. McCutcheon, he's
What
another
name?
one. Yeah, McCutcheon, and he's the guy that answers the front door, and everything he says sounds like this. And he's another person in this movie that's just so wonderful and really throws himself into the role.
That stereotypical vibe of, for example, the butler from Rocky Horror Picture Show. When
Yes,
he opens the door.
yes, 100%. This guy should have been named Jenkins. I know McCutcheon is a good name, but he should have been Jenkins. Yeah, with the way that he just sells it so well, and he's in this silk robe. And so he answers the door, and they say, hey, we're here for the Cunningham Wake. McCutcheon lets them in, and he takes them. It's a funeral home. It's a funeral parlor, and they're walking through down the center aisle with all the seating, and they come to this coffin, and this coffin is on a conveyor belt. McCutcheon is like, all right, jump on into the coffin, we'll send you right through. This conveyor belt goes into the wall. And they're like, no thanks. Corey Feldman's like, we were going to take you up on your offer, but we're good. And McCutcheon pulls out a gun, and he's like, no. He's like, you misunderstood. He's like, you're getting in the coffin. And so these two guys, reluctantly get in. It's Corey Feldman and his buddy Reggie. They're two douchey, tough guys, and they've got to squeeze into this coffin all next to each other, and they're all fucking pressed in there. McCutcheon has a good laugh at them and closes the lid, and they're getting sent not only into the wall, but it looks like a fireplace. There's definitely a fire going off in there, and they get sent into the wall, and then they go past the fire and they go riding down, and it's kind of like a Disneyland ride. It reminded me of, yeah, it reminded me of Universal Pictures. It reminded me of the interior of the E.T. ride. But anyway, they're coming down this path, and then they come into this what's clearly this room of luxury. They come out of this fireplace on this conveyor belt. The coffin stops, and it's opened up, and they're in there, and they look up, and we cut to a shot of some titties. So we cut to some boobs, and we cut back down to the guys all happy looking at each other, and we cut back up, and it's a pretty lady, and she's all happy, and hey, evening, boys, come on in, and so they get out of this coffin, and it's this huge room with lots of couches and pillows and stuff to sit on, and there's a bar across one room, and it's just debauchery. There's naked women everywhere, there's half-naked dudes everywhere, and they're all just all sloppy, chasing after these chicks, and it reminds me, it's just like so American Pie before American Pie was ever a thing. It's just like, just dudes, like just hypnotized, like Looney Tunes, like when they would smell like pie in the window and you could see the scent and they'd like float up and go after it. That's what these guys are doing. They're approached by this gal, real pretty girl, and Reggie goes off with her. So they take off. Another gal comes and grabs Corey. And so we cut to the cup of hot cocoa that came and grabbed Reggie, and they're together in a room now, and they're making it happen. And she takes her clothes off, and, we get more nudity. Reggie's all excited sitting there, and she comes over to him, and she's, like, kissing on him and stuff, and she cuts open his chest just a little bit and gets some of his blood and eats it, and she's just like, she clearly loves it. She goes off camera, she's going down on him, and Lilith walks in, right? She's not all gross anymore. She's Angie Everhart. Now, Lilith was played by Angie Everhart. She was a supermodel back in the 90s, and just a gorgeous woman. And apparently, from what everybody says about this movie, she was like a total delight to work with. Like, everybody just adored this chick. She was super nice. The thing about Angie Everhart, she wasn't a trained actress. She was a supermodel, one of the executive producers of the show and of these movies. His name was Joel Silver. He was filming a movie in Seattle with Sylvester Stallone, and Sylvester Stallone was dating Angie Everhart. And so as the story goes, he's talking to Joel Silver, and he's like, hey, you're filming this Tales from the Crypt movie. Why don't you hire Angie, to do it? That's how she got the job, is Joel Silver wanted her for this role. And I don't want to rip on her because she's so awesome in this movie.
Yeah.
But like, a lot of the charm is just how, like, bad some of the delivery is. I can't say enough good things about her. It sounds like I'm ripping on her. I'm really not. I think that she's, frankly, just one of the best parts about this movie is Angie Everhart's performance. Just truly perfect. And so anyway, she walks in, and Reggie's going, oh, sweet, like 2 chicks, all right. Lilith's going, the way we do things here is, they start you off and I finish you, And he's going, okay, sweet. And she goes, so show me what you got. Come here. And Reggie's like, okay. And we see from a side shot, they go in to kiss, and Reggie doesn't see it, but we as the audience see that Lilith's tongue grows out way too long and goes into his mouth, and then it goes down his throat, and we get a great shot of it creeping down his throat and going down into his chest, and it bursts out, it pushes his heart out.
Oh my God.
The tongue pushes his heart out. It's a very Freddy Krueger moment, and Lilith takes this heart, and he drops dead, and she says, don't eat your heart out, baby. That's my job. And she fucking eats this heart. It's awesome. So then we cut to Corey Feldman, and we get our second boob shot, and it's 3 nipples. And it's Corey Feldman. Yeah, it's Corey Feldman with this girl, and he says, well, looks like I finally found a girl with a little something extra. And on a side note, Corey Feldman and this girl actually hit it off in real life, and they ended up hanging out a lot, I guess. I guess they dated for some time. It was kind of cool. And she starts doing her thing to him. They start kissing and this and that, and she heads down south. And down south, so stupid. And Lilith walks in, and he sees her, and he's like, oh, yeah, sweet, 2 chicks. And she goes, care for a little deep throat. And then we fade to black.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, right. And then we fade to black, okay? So it's clear that Lilith is now, she's got Caleb. She's got Corey Feldman in her clutches. Now, we cut to a police station. And our heroine, however you say that.
Heroine.
Catherine, right, our heroine, Catherine, is at the police station talking to the cops. She's talking to Officer Noonan. Officer Noonan is your typical sloppy, doesn't try too hard, overweight cop. She's trying to tell him, hey, my brother's missing. Corey Feldman is missing here. I need you guys to find him. And he's going, look, we've got fucking X amount of cases in front of yours. We'll get to it when we get to it. He's telling her to fuck off. Our hero of the story, Rafe Gutman, played by Dennis Miller, is sitting in the lobby, and he's listening to all this. Now, Dennis Miller is a comedian. He got his start, I think he got his start on SNL, and he would do the Weekend Update sketches.
Oh, wow.
The way that he got this part was Joel Silver, same guy that wanted Angie Everhart to play the part of Lilith. He wanted Dennis Miller to play the part of Rafe. And as the story goes, he was budgeted $250,000 to get somebody to play Rafe Gutman. And he approaches Dennis Miller, and Dennis Miller didn't want to do this movie. And he's going, you know what, I'll tell you what. He goes, I'll do this movie for $1 million. So Joel Silver goes to Universal Studios and he goes, hey, we can get Dennis Miller for this role. He wants $1 million. And Universal's going, no, They're going, $1 million? We're going to pay $250,000. You want Dennis Miller so bad, you take that out of the rest of the budget for the movie. So out of a $2.5 million budget, Joel Silver takes another $750,000 and pays Dennis Miller $1 million. Dennis Miller takes up $1 million to be in this movie out of a $2.5 million budget. That's money to pay all the other actors. That's money to pay for the cameras. That's money to pay for editing. That's money to pay for visual effects like gore and blood and monster makeup and stuff. $750,000 they took out of the budget. The total budget is 2.5.
So they only had $1.5 million to work with. The rest of it.
Yes, exactly.
That's crazy.
It's fucking crazy. And not only that, I'm not trying to rip on the guy, but apparently, he wasn't the easiest to work with. I guess he was like really rude and short with a lot of the staff and the crew. He would call in a lot. Like he would ask if they would shoot him out of a set, which means that if he had a scene where he's talking with another character and they're in a room somewhere, he would ask if they could just shoot the other actor's part without him, and then he'd come in and like do his shit later. It's a huge bummer for the rest of the cast because they have no one to work with. His first day on set, he told these guys, he said, look, I'm not gonna I don't like my lines in the script, and so I'm just gonna say what I want to say. And he was improvising a lot of his lines in this movie, and so they had to do a lot of like last minute rewrites and edits and shit like that because he wasn't saying things from the script that were important for the story. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So they had to adapt a lot of last minute shit because of this overpriced actor making all these demands. All that to say, it's a big shame how much trouble he apparently brought to production because he really fucking shines in this movie. He's fucking funny. He's so great. So Catherine's there. She's telling Officer Noonan. Officer Noonan is telling her, look, I can't do anything for you. We've got all these missing persons cases. Your brother's going to have to wait. And Dennis Miller's character is listening in, and he's like, look, let me help you out. I'm Rafe. He gives her his card. He says, look, let me show you to my office down the road here. And, they take off and they go walking down the road. And it turns out that his office is part of an old abandoned movie theater. And so she goes inside with him and, reluctantly, they have
popcorn waiting.
Say again?
Does he have popcorn waiting?
He does. He does, actually. That's funny. Because he's super broke and he's got the one card. Like, he offers her his card and she takes it and looks at it and he's like, can I get that back from you? And she fucking gives it back. Right. And when she gets to his office, he's like, can I get you anything? He's like, he pulls out he's like, can I get you some popcorn or Prozac, anything like that? Prozac? Right. And she's going, no, I'm good. Catherine is reluctant to accept his help. He's clearly kind of a loser, and he's kind of sleazy. He's looking at her. Reluctantly, she agrees to his services. We cut to the bar where Caleb and his friends were hanging out. It's the next day. And now Rafe is on the trail, trying to find Caleb, Catherine's missing brother. And so he shows up at this bar, and it's a great scene. It's these two guys, these two friends of Caleb. One is named Zeke. The other one is, I cannot remember his name, but he's just like especially dumb. And it's this great scene. They're playing pool. They're trying to impress these two chicks. Rafe comes in just talking shit immediately, just going, man, like, you are just like too cool, aren't you? I'm looking for your friend Caleb. He went missing last night. And they tell him, well, he went to this whorehouse. And as they're having this conversation, Rafe is continuously calling Zeke out on his shots in pool. And he's going, man, are you really going to do that? That doesn't look like it's going to line up. And Zeke is consistently missing after Ray's calling him out on these shots. So Zeke is just getting more and more pissed as this conversation is going. He's not having Rafe here asking him all these questions about his friend and calling out his bad shots in front of these chicks, making him look like a douche, And so it finally comes to a head and he gets the address from these guys. And he learns it's 325 Beaumont. And so Zeke tells him, like, why don't you get the fuck out of here, Tiger, basically. And he's lighting up a shot. And Rafe tells him, he's like, man, I really don't think that's a good one. And Zeke is telling him, fuck off. And Zeke takes the shot. He fires, and his cue ball hits a beer on the side of the pool table and drenches these two girls that he's trying to impress. They get all pissed. You fucking asshole! This and that. So now Zeke has fucking had it. He puts his pool cue down and he goes up to Rafe and he's like, all right, let's step outside. Rafe tells him, you know what, Zeke, it's all right. I'm just not in the mood for a blowjob right now. So Rafe ducks out and he heads to the funeral home. There are proceedings going on there for a gal that had just passed. And Rafe is there kind of like observing things. You know, he realizes that this brothel he was giving the address for is apparently fronted by a funeral home. So he's sitting there kind of taking in the scene, and he notices our boy Jenkins from the bar, the one with the Crypt Keeper tattoo that told these guys, you know, about this brothel. It's broad daylight, and Jenkins is sitting during this wake, and he looks like he's in pain, and he's like talking to himself, and he's putting suntan lotion on his arms. So we cut to the mega church run by Jimmy Current, and Jimmy Current is played wonderfully by Chris Sarandon. Now, Chris Sarandon was in another classic vampire flick. He was in a movie called Fright Night. Chris Sarandon played... Oh,
I know that movie.
You do. Chris Sarandon played the main vampire in the original Fright Night. This was before the 2011 remake.
I think I know the 2011 remake for sure.
Okay. It's got, what's his name? Colin Farrell.
It's got the one dude that's like in Superbad or whatever too, the kid.
Yeah, McLovin's in that. Yeah, you're right. He plays Evil Ed. I never finished the remake, but Fright Night is so freaking good, Richard. Oh, everybody's so great. Evil Ed. Oh, it's such a wonderful movie. Anyway, maybe we'll cover it sometime. But so Chris Sarandon plays the main vampire in Fright Night, and he's in this, which is great. And he plays Jimmy Current, and Jimmy Current is a pastor of this mega church, and he's giving this very impassioned speech, and it's all a lot of empty words. He's not really saying anything. And he's reading this teleprompter. The teleprompter is taking forever to get up to the next paragraph, and so he's filling in like with a lot of filler talk, like waiting for the speech. And he's going, "That's right, it's a coming." It's great. It's just this wonderful scene where you get a good idea of who this character is. He's just very much this surface level pastor that doesn't seem very genuine in his actions or like love for Christ or any of it. He's very much a TV mega church pastor. He gives this great sermon and everybody's loving it, and Catherine is in the crowd because she works for him, and she's got a clipboard in hand, and they start discussing business. And we see Vincent, the guy from the first scene in the movie, when he dug up Lilith. We realize that Vincent works for Jimmy Current as well, and he's saying, hey, very suspiciously, he's going, hey, I've got those construction plans in your office, and Jimmy's like, oh yeah, I'll be there in a sec. So we realize that Vincent is working for Jimmy. Catherine is talking to Jimmy about business, and Rafe, our leading man, our private investigator, steps up and he starts talking to Catherine. And it's immediately established Rafe and Jimmy Current don't like each other. They just are not feeling each other's vibes. And Rafe tells Catherine, hey, look, found out what happened with your brother. He was, soliciting a whorehouse. And she's going, okay. She goes, well, you know what? If that's what he's doing, then I don't want to know anymore, so I don't need your services anymore. It's clear that Catherine's not interested, and she's done paying him, and he's, the case is over. Case closed. So we cut to Rafe back at the bar, and Rafe is drinking, and he's talking to the bartender. He's talking to the bartender about Catherine, and just going, man, it's too bad. She's so hot, this and that, We realize that Jenkins is sitting at the bar, behind him. Dennis Miller says something to the bartender about, it's too bad that old time religion, those Christians, they don't mix well with sex. And Jenkins gets right back into his monologue, the same exact monologue from the beginning of the movie. And sex, you looking for sex? And he just really just pours himself into this scene, and it's just so wonderful. And he's telling him, I know a place not too far from here where you can get the best. And he's just really just diving in. It's just so meaty and juicy and awesome the way that he does it. I feel like a lot of people would watch this and go cheesy. I watch this and I go, man, he really just fucking dove in, and I appreciate it a lot. He gives Rafe the same spiel that he gives everybody else, that he gave Caleb and his friends, that he gives everybody else. 325 Beaumont, ask for the Cunningham wake. So we cut to the funeral home that night, and McCutcheon is working in the autopsy room, and it's clear by this scene that A, he's like a big old weirdo perv, but B, that he is like stealing from the dead, and he's like making choo-choo trains with his fingers on this dead woman's body, and then he's like cutting open her guts and like smelling the gas, and like, dude, Dude, it's so much. And he's like sniffing it and he's like, oh.
It's like when we cut open like Primals of Meat or whatever. It's like,
and you smell that. Yeah, that fucking fart smell. He's smelling that shit and he's breathing it in deep. And he goes, lovely perfume.
Ew.
Yet it's just so, like, it's too much. So there's a knock at the door, and McCutcheon is interrupted from his good time, and it's Rafe. He's going, I'm here for the Cunningham wake. McCutcheon tells him, I'm sorry, we're closed. And Rafe goes, you don't understand, because he's trying to investigate and find out where this missing brother is, and he's going, so he's trying to get in, he's going, you don't understand, I'm feeling extremely lonely, and if I don't mourn 2, maybe 3 times tonight, if I don't get laid,
God.
is what he's saying. And McCutcheon tells him, oh, I'm so sorry. Why don't you go mourn somewhere in private with a box of tissues? And so he fucking closes the door on him. Go fuck yourself. And so,
literally.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, right? And so Rafe is going, okay, we see him outside, and he decides to climb up to the 2nd floor, and he climbs up. So he goes inside and he's searching around, and it's just, nothing inordinate about the place. It just looks like a big old house. You can hear Lilith in one of the next rooms, and she's interviewing this gal, like for a job position there, like clearly to be a prostitute. And this gal's gorgeous, by the way. He's kind of peering over the railing, and he can see downstairs that there's another knock at the door, and it's another young man, and McCutcheon answers it. McCutcheon doesn't waste any fucking time. He opens the door, and he's like, wake is closed, you little shit. Come back tomorrow. Right? And the guy's like, and he just fucking closes the door on this guy, right? So awesome. So anyway, and then McCutcheon, closes the door, kind of stops, looks. Rafe isn't there. And so he just goes on with his night. Now, Rafe sneaks downstairs. He hears the woman Tammy upstairs. He hears her scream, and he hears something thud on the floor like a body. And Lilith comes out shortly after upstairs, and Rafe is going, oh shit, and he hides in the parlor section with all the coffins. And he goes and hides behind a coffin. He kind of pulls the lid up and kind of hides behind it. Lilith comes downstairs, and she's looking for McCutcheon, and she's coming downstairs, and the suspense is building up, and he's hiding, and is she going to find him? And she's sniffing around, and she smells something, and then she looks down, and she sniffs her own armpit, and it's her, she realizes. Womp, womp. So fucking wacky. And so she goes, oh, deadly. And then she takes off, right? She nearly catches him. Rafe finds the autopsy room, and he finds Caleb's nose piercing, and he recognizes it from a picture that Catherine provided to him earlier. But we fade away from the inside of the morgue where he's found the piercing to the church, and Catherine and Jimmy Current, they are working on an intro for a video series that they're producing. Rafe comes in, and Jimmy, doesn't like him. We remember from their last scene together. He's just not having Rafe being here, and so Rafe goes, hey, look, I'm not trying to cause any trouble, just Catherine, here's this. And he gives her the piercing and goes, I'll see you guys later. Catherine sees what it is, and she chases after him, and she's going, hey, where did you find this? And he's going, well, I staked out the funeral home, and it looks like it's clearly a cover for, a whorehouse. He's going, look, we can't go to the cops right now. We don't have enough information. He's like, but just let me go back there tonight. I'm going to investigate some more, and we'll see if we can find your brother. And so she agrees. We cut to him going to the funeral home. It's nighttime. Jenkins is there getting off of his motorcycle. So the two of them head to the front door together, and they knock. McCutcheon answers, and he's like, oh, hey, yeah, wake is definitely open. I only have room for one. He's like, so, Mr. Gutman to Rafe, why don't you come on in? And Jenkins gets all pissed. Hey! And McCutcheon grabs him and slams him against the door. And it's clear that they know each other. And he's going, you wait right here. Got it? So Jenkins, the tough guy, now has to wait. So McCutcheon leads Rafe to the coffin. Rafe doesn't think twice about it. He gets in. He's put through the fireplace. He goes down through the Neverland ride. He ends up in the bordello, in the party room. It's the same shit, straight debauchery, titties, music, fog machines. It's like everybody's having a good time.
It sounds like a rave.
He's greeted by Tammy, who was just turned last night when Rafe was there. Tammy is now full-on vampire prostitute. She leads him away out of the party. They're going to go find somewhere a little more private. We cut to upstairs, and Jenkins, our tough biker's walking around all pissed. He's the guy that looked like he was all in pain at the funeral home in the day, and he's putting suntan lotion on his shit. And Lilith approaches him, and she's going, what's the problem? And he's going, I hate this transformation shit. It hurts. I can't stand it. And she's going, oh, poor baby. And she embraces him like she's going to kiss him. And she just fucking twists his head and just rips this guy's head off. And he's not even like a total vampire yet. That's what always got me about this scene. I was like, this guy isn't even like, he's still on his way. And she just like murders this guy. And the practical effects look really great. The decapitation itself looks really great, and the head that she holds, it looks fantastic. We cut back to Tammy and Rafe, and she's leading him into a sex dungeon downstairs. And she goes down into the dungeon, and Rafe is kind of looking at everything, and she swings this medieval torture rack down, like the type where you're like putting your arms up in the air and they're like strapping you down by the wrists.
Oh, I
like,
know what that's called.
In an X shape. And
I know what it is, because I remember somebody talking about it recently, but I can't remember what it's called now.
Well, and the whole system is like this metal rack that can be maneuvered like either horizontally or vertically.
Yeah.
So they walk in and she like pulls that shit down so it's vertical, and she like snaps this whip. She goes, take off your clothes, worm. But Rafe is a gentleman, and Rafe insists ladies before worms. And she rips her top off real quick.
Oh, my God.
It rips her top off. She's got this, like, it's like leather straps and chains, and there's nothing. She's wearing nothing. And so she's, like, in this S&M type of bondage. And Rafe looks at her, and he's like, can you believe it? I almost wore that tonight. He goes, wouldn't we have been mortified? So good. And so Rafe tricks her. He's like, hey, so how does this doohickey work? He gets her wrists up into the straps and straps her down and ties her down. He's like, all right, look, bitch, I gotta go. Thanks for having me.
Deuces.
Right, yeah, deuces, absolutely. And he goes to leave, and he doesn't see it, but he drops his wallet. And so she's stuck there, and she's yelling after him, you motherfucker! You know, she's all pissed. And so Ray finds a way out of the party. He heads upstairs. He's almost caught by McCutcheon. He hides inside of a coffin, and once the coast is clear, he leaves the coffin, and he realized that he was hiding inside a coffin with the dead body of Jenkins. His fucking head is all twisted off. And so he realizes, oh shit, this guy's dead. Rafe ducks out. Lilith frees Tammy, and she finds Rafe's wallet, and she ends up smelling and tasting the blood on Tammy's fingers, and she's sucking the blood off, and she's like, oh my goodness, like I haven't had this blood in years. It's very rare. And she's like smelling it and licking it, and she's going, oh, we've got to keep him alive. And so we cut to Rafe at his office at the abandoned movie theater. He's panicking, gathering shit. He's swigging down booze. And before we realize it, Lilith is behind him. She's right there. And she's going, hey, not very nice to leave a girl hanging like that. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry. You're going to have to tell Tammy. I apologize. And she goes, not her. I meant me. I saw you back at the house. And when I did, I knew you were special. He pulls a gun on her, and he's going, look, bitch, I'm not digging your vibe at all. She's going, oh, what's your type then? And she, vampires, they have that way traditionally of hypnotizing you. And so he starts to get these visions, first of her as a cheerleader, and he's still kind of not feeling it. And then her as Marilyn Monroe, she's trying to seduce him with this hypnosis, and he's still kind of not feeling it. And then she appears to him as Catherine. And he's definitely feeling that. She's figured that out. She's right next to him, seducing him with these words and these images in his mind. And at that moment, Catherine walks in and sees the two of them standing there together. And she's like, oh, like he's with a woman. And Catherine ducks out, and Rafe ends up chasing after her. And she's going, I'm going to the cops. Like, forget it, Rafe. So now we cut to the police station with Officer Noonan again, our sloppy cop. And
sloppy cop.
And, oh, it's worse because not only, he's the sloppy cop, but this guy is gorging on a can of baked beans, and he's got
no.
Dude.
Oh, wait a minute. I think I've seen this clip before.
No, you haven't.
Just this clip, and it was used like in a meme or something.
And he's got the bib. He's like put a napkin in his shirt, and it's all spilled.
Yep.
And he's talking while he's chewing. And pointing with the spoon. And
I've seen that scene. That's disgusting.
It's rough. It's rough. And so they're trying to tell him, look, this guy's missing. We think that he's at this funeral home, and we think that it's a front for a brothel. And this guy's not wanting to hear any of it. And Catherine jumps in, and she's like, well, look. I've got Caleb's nose ring here. She shows it to him, like, look, we found that there. And Dennis Miller drops this great line. He says, yeah, try not to eat it, Mongo, right? And so, all right. We cut back to the brothel. It's now Officer Noonan, and Catherine and Rafe, and they're at the brothel, and McCutcheon answers, "Oh, what seems to be the problem?" Like, not knowing what's going on, and Rafe is going, "Don't listen to this shit." Rafe cuts into the house, goes into the parlor, and goes to the coffin that's on the conveyor belt, and he's showing Officer Noonan and Catherine. He's like, "Look," he's like, "you turn this on, it goes through the fireplace, it goes down into this extra room, and it goes down into the basement where the bordello is." And so he turns it on, and McCutcheon's going, "What the hell are you doing?" He hits the button, the coffin on the conveyor belt goes in, and then it just stops in the fireplace and burns up. And McCutcheon's like, "My God, that coffin cost me $1,000. Which is like $1,000 is $1,000 now, but like in the 90s, you know, the idea is it was a lot more. Yeah, 96. And he's going,
Inflation.
oh, sure. Now a fucking pine box costs you $1,000, but back then, I mean, you get a pretty decent casket for $1,000. And he's going, "My God, I've lost all this money." And so he's clearly rigged this thing. They knew that Rafe was coming back, and they rigged this thing so that the cops wouldn't see that this is the entrance to the bordello and yada, yada, yada. And Rafe knows that. He's going, "They knew I'd come back." And McCutcheon's going, "Why the hell would I want him to come back?" And he tells Catherine and the officer he was carrying on with some woman in the parking lot, and they were stoned out of their mind. It was disgusting. So Catherine and the cop buy it, and they're like, "All right, Rafe is full of shit. You know, sorry to bug you." Catherine takes off with Officer Noonan, and they leave him there to walk. We cut to Lilith and Vincent upstairs, and they're watching. She's like kind of checking Rafe out, and she's going, "Look, we need to talk." She's going, "We don't even need to worry about this guy anymore, this Rafe guy. He's done. We need to worry about Jimmy Current." She goes, "If I was in charge, we'd be having a lot more fun. You'd be making more money." She goes, "You can't tell me that you're having fun working for the Reverend." And through these two conversations, we're realizing, okay, like Jimmy Current, the pastor, the megachurch pastor, is working with Vincent and working with Lilith through this whole scam of killing customers who were there for prostitution, killing customers, stealing their shit. Jimmy Current's a part of that. So she's trying to convince Vincent, get the key out of his possession. We see Vincent kind of thinking about her words. So we cut to the church. Vincent has the key. He's handing it over to Jimmy Current, and Jimmy Current is putting it in his safe. And he goes to Jimmy and he's going, "Look, man, I was wondering if there's any way I can get more money out of this bordello thing." Jimmy Current's a total hypocrite. He's clearly well off and he has money and he's cashing in all the benefits from this arrangement they've got going on. But he's going, "Brother Vincent, you're doing this for the Lord. That's what you're getting out of it." And he's like, "Yeah, man, but I just figured maybe I could make some more money." Chris Sarandon has this great moment where he stops what he's doing and he turns around and he's like leaning down and looking at Vincent. And he's going, "Brother Vincent." He's like, "Am I hearing you correctly?" And he's just so menacing. This guy that's supposed to be this man of God and supposed to be like a leader in love. We see it in this moment that he's a selfish, evil person. And Vincent, he's going, "Never mind, Jimmy, don't worry about me. You forget I even said anything." You know, he backs out. We cut to a dress rehearsal that Jimmy's got going on down in the main church. It's a dress rehearsal for some performance that they're going to film, some live broadcast. And this giant animatronic devil is coming out of the center of the stage. And Jimmy Current, with his guitar in hand, he slides into center stage and he's going, "Stop, Satan! I send you back to the fire depths where you belong."
What in the Tenacious D?
It's a whole show. Again, there's no love. It seems like it anyway. There's no love in what Jimmy Current and his ministries are doing. It's a big business, and this happens a lot, and it's unfortunate. And this character is the epitome of that. We see this animatronic devil coming out, and he comes out, and he's going, "I send you back, da-da-da." We see this technician messing with the controls to this laser. It says, "Laser light, oh the Lord." He can't get it working, and Jimmy is waiting for his cue, and it doesn't come up, and he goes, "I said, I send you back." And the technician is messing with the controls, and he sets it up too high, and the laser shoots, and it nearly kills Jimmy, and it burns across, burns across into the stage, and Jimmy's like, "What the hell?" And so Jimmy's pissed, and they're going, "Hey, let's take a breather." Jimmy takes off all pissed, and Catherine meets him and follows him to his office. She goes, "I want to start a documentary about lust and how it affects people for the negative." And he's like, "That sounds wonderful. He's an onward Christian soldier," is what he tells her. So now she's got Jimmy's blessing and apparently money to make this documentary. Rafe heads to the cemetery to do some investigating during the daytime. He decides to come back at night when everybody's gone. He breaks into this, what is that, a mausoleum? Yeah, he breaks into he breaks into this mausoleum. He's looking around with his flashlight, and there's this wonderful little moment where he comes into this corner, and this Party City ass prop cat comes flying at him, and you can even see the lever. You slow it down, you can see the lever throwing this cat at him. It's fucking awesome.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Yeah, for sure. If you pause it, I'll show it to you. But anyway, so he goes and he discovers and he digs up the coffin from that morning's burial. Rafe decides to open the coffin up, and he realizes that not only does the coffin have the body of the person who was buried that morning, but it's also been stored with another body, the body of Jenkins, who was beheaded by Lilith. And so you've got a dead body in there, and you've got Jenkins laying kind of next to him on top of him with, his head taken off. Rafe decides to take some pictures for evidence. So we cut to the church, and we see Vincent kind of rushing out of Jimmy Current's office, and Jimmy Current's heading in the opposite direction to his office, and they meet at the elevator, and Jimmy's like, "Hey, where you going, Brother Vincent?" And Brother Vincent's like, "Oh, I've got a doctor's appointment." Ticks off real quick. And Jimmy kind of realizes it's fishy right away, and he runs to his office, and his safe is open. He's realized that Vincent has taken the key that he had previously given Jimmy to keep safe. So we cut to a strip club, and Vincent is meeting up with Lilith there, presumably to hand the key over to her so she can take control of this whole situation. We see that Jimmy Current has followed him there, and he's in a raincoat and a hat and dark glasses and just like super shady. He's walking in, he's kind of shocked at all these women dancing around, and he's kind of pulling his glasses down and looking around and stuff. And he comes up to Vincent and Lilith and says, "Hey, you cannot give this awful woman this key, give it back to me." He's trying to convince him. And as they're having this back and forth, the three of them, they realize that Catherine has come into the strip club, and she's shooting her documentary about lust, and she's starting to interview patrons and stuff around the bar. Catherine sees Lilith across the way. She doesn't see Jimmy and Vincent duck out, but she sees Lilith, and Lilith sticks around for an interview, and Catherine starts to interview her, and she's filming her, and security comes by and tells them to turn off the camera or whatever. So we cut to Lilith exiting the bar, and she's got Jimmy Current by the shirt. She's telling Vincent, like, "Look, just give me the key so I can smoke this fucker," and Jimmy Current's going, "No, Brother Vincent, give me the key so I can send this demon slut back to hell where she belongs," And Vincent's like, "You know what? I'm going to do what I should have done a long time ago." And he tosses this key up into the air. I have a hard time believing that this person can take this ancient relic that's like made of stone and like toss it 3 feet into the air, and it lands on the concrete and like shatters. I'm like, okay, how'd that even happen? So the key is now destroyed. Vincent's going, "All right, let's fucking kill him." And she's going, no. She's like, "I'm going to let him live and see what happens now that I'm free." So she decides to let Jimmy live. So Rafe goes to Catherine with the pictures, and he's going, "Look, I got these pictures. There's 2 bodies in this coffin. You need to see this twisted shit that's going on." And he shows her the photographs. He pulls them out, and it's just the one body in the coffin. There's no Jenkins, and Headless Jenkins is gone. And she's going, "Why are you taking pictures of dead bodies in coffins?" He's trying to tell her there's 2 bodies in there. It's gone. And he gets escorted out, I believe, by security. So she's like, whatever. She goes back to editing her documentary, and she's looking at the footage of when she interviewed Lilith in the strip club. And Lilith is not in the shot because she's a vampire. And Catherine's seeing this going, "Oh shit, Rafe's right. Rafe's been right this whole time." So she goes and finds Rafe, and they agree to continue investigating together. As they meet at Catherine's house, Caleb calls. And we haven't seen him since the beginning of the movie, when he was first at that bordello with his buddy. He calls and he's saying, "I'm in this old factory on the outskirts of town. You gotta come help me. They're coming after me, please." So Catherine and Rafe decide to go and find him. They get there, and it's this big old industrial factory with elevated, steel walkways and steam coming out of pipes, and it's all dark and shit. And they go and they find Caleb's body, and he's lying there. They're going, "Oh no," and they go up to him, and he pops up, and he's a vampire. And he's got this prosthetic on, this makeup, and I think it really looks great. It reminds me a lot of the Lost Boys. I think it just really looks nice, and when you make something with your hands, it always looks better than anything a computer could do. So he pops up, and they realize that Caleb's a vampire, and so they start running, and he's chasing after him. They come to this elevated platform where their only means of escape is by swinging on this chain to another elevated platform. They have to swing over this valley, this little concrete valley. And which I'm just gonna say, I see that scene. You could have jumped down. You
I was
totally
like,
could
this
have.
is unnecessary.
They could have like squatted down, grabbed onto the wall,
And
let themselves
like,
lengthen down, hang,
drop.
yeah, and then just drop. Exactly. But anyway, Catherine goes swinging first, and she makes it to the other side, and she starts climbing down the ladder on the other side. And Rafe grabs the chain, he swings through, and he makes it to the other side, and he crashes out a window, and he lands conveniently on Officer Noonan's police car outside, lands right on the hood and passes out. In the meantime, inside the factory, Catherine is now being kidnapped by Caleb and by Vincent and by McCutcheon, who's giving her the chloroform. Now Catherine's in trouble. So Rafe wakes up in the hospital and he's strapped down. Officer Noonan is there. He's telling him, "You're in big trouble, buddy boy," this and that. This nurse comes in and she goes to the other side of the hospital room and she's treating another patient on the other side of the curtain, like the dividing curtain between the two hospital beds in the room. And she says, "Officer, can you come please help me?" And she's all hot sounding, and so Noonan's like, "Yeah," and goes around the corner, and Rafe manages to free himself. He pulls the straps off just in time as Officer Noonan is murdered, and we hear blood splatter, and we see his body drop underneath the dividing curtain, and his throat slashed, and he's gone. Curtain rips open, and it's Tammy, the chick with the vest and the chains, and he tricked her, right? She opens the curtain, and she looks at him, and he goes, "Tammy!
How good is to see you
Yeah,
again?"
exactly. And she attacks. Rafe's quick. He pulls out, I think, his IV and stabs it into her forehead. And it allows him to grab this cart, and he shoves it against her, and he shoves her against this wall. He shoves her, against this window where sunlight is coming in. And the sunlight touches the back on her nurse's uniform, and she starts smoking. And Rafe backs up, and there's a wonderful shot. They edited it so beautifully, where you see the actress standing there, her figure starts blowing up and she's getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and it cuts, but you can't see it. It cuts to a prop that they had explode, and her limbs and guts, everything goes flying everywhere, and it's just awesome.
Also, it's not like typical vampires where they burn up. It's like she blows up like a balloon.
She expands like Violet in Willy Wonka.
Or the ant from Harry Potter.
Yes, and she just boom, just explodes. It's awesome. And then weirdly, we get a cameo from Whoopi Goldberg. I don't know. I don't know why. To this day, I'm like, she was in a Tales from the Crypt episode, and it's 1996. She was still like making a lot of movies and stuff back then. She's still working now, isn't she? On the Talk or whatever.
Gosh, I don't know.
But she's still around, Yeah, okay, yeah. She does one of those. She makes a quick cameo, but she's the other patient in the room, and she like wakes up all pissed because the fucking vampire blew up in her room.
Wait, so she was the other patient in the room?
Yeah. She was like sleeping.
Did she watch the officer get his throat slit, or was she awake?
No, I think the idea was that she was asleep, and then when Tammy blows up, she kind of wakes up and she's like, "The fuck, like, can you keep?" And she's like, "Can you keep it down? I'm trying to rest." So silly, and she's got her Whoopi like beehive dreads. I don't know how else to say it. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? We cut to the bordello, and Lilith and Caleb are downstairs, and they've got Catherine on that torture rack. Lilith is just like running her hands all over her and looking at her prize, and Caleb's like, I hate to say it, but it's their brother and everything, but he's a fully turned vampire now, and he's just like kind of perving out watching. It's just really gross. And
oh no, he's in the cuck seat.
Exactly, and he's like just totally into it. Lilith is like running her hands very suggestively over Catherine's body. Upstairs, Jimmy Current comes to the bordello, and he's in a trench coat, and McCutcheon answers the door and basically, "What the hell do you want?" Jimmy Current is telling him, "Look, I know that I can't beat you all, so I've decided to join you." And Vincent comes into the room, and he's like, "Oh, really? Well, I'll be sure to let Lilith know." And Jimmy Current tells him, no, I'd like to let her know myself. And Vincent pulls a gun on him. He's like, "Come on, man." He's about to smoke Jimmy. And we hear this car, and it's coming, and it comes blasting through the living room, runs over McCutcheon, just fucking kills him. It's Rafe. Rafe gets out of the car. He pulls a gun on Vincent. Vincent is about to shoot Rafe first, but Jimmy catches him and gives him a kick. It throws Vincent off, and Rafe gets a shot in, and Vincent is dead. And so now it's Rafe and Jimmy Current standing there, and Rafe is pointing the gun at him, and he's like, "All right, man, like, tell me, are you friend or foe? What are you doing here?" He's like, "Look, I know that I caused all this," and he opens up his trench coat, and he's got wooden stakes, and Dennis Miller is like, "All right." So they decide to team up. Rafe tosses Jimmy a squirt gun, And Jimmy's looking at it, and Rafe tells him it's holy water. And so they pump up their squirt guns.
Oh, God.
Okay. All right.
What
Okay.
in the...
Oh, Richard. Richard, it's so good. It's so good. He tosses him the squirt gun, and they pump him up. And do you know the song Ballroom Blitz?
Yes,
Sweet?
yes,
Okay.
I do.
So that starts... Right? And that starts to come on the soundtrack. And they walk into the main part of the bordello, and all these vampire bitches are walking around topless. Business isn't happening yet. They're kind of getting ready for the night, and they sneak in. And it's the best scene in the movie. They just start smoking all these bitches while ballroom, yeah, with squirt guns filled with holy water.
Oh my
They
God.
start taking all these chicks out while Ballroom Blitz is playing on the soundtrack. It is so awesome. This scene is filled with so many moments that just really make the cost of admission worth it. There's just a couple of shots of all the chaos and violence happening that are just so wonderful. Quick zoom-ins of this woman and her face is melting off and she's screaming, you know, and there's another gal that's like her bottom half is missing and she's crawling on the ground and she's got her guts just hanging out. It's
Ballroom Blitz is playing.
Yes, and these guys, you know, Jimmy Current and Rafe are just smoking everyone. I don't want to go into it too much because it should be watched. It's just so good. They make their way further into the bordello, and Caleb is there. Caleb tries to take a swing on them with an axe, and Rafe catches him in time, gets him in the chest, smokes him. So they kill him, they make their way downstairs, and Catherine is still chained up. Jimmy Current starts to let her go. He starts loosening her wrists, and he tells her, like, I'm sorry if I touch you in a way I shouldn't. She goes, oh, no, you can touch me. You can touch me anywhere you want. And it's Lilith. And Lilith swings up, and Jimmy Current pulls out a knife and tries to stab her. And Lilith grabs his wrist and breaks it and makes him stab himself. And poor Chris Sarandon has taken one to the chest. And just as she stabs him and pushes him against the wall, Rafe jumps over the railing with Corey Feldman's axe and takes a swing on Lilith and totally just separates her shoulder from her body. But he cuts her in half. She roars. She's all pissed. She puts it back together. She gives it a middle finger and she disappears. She goes, fuck you, and gives him the middle finger and disappears. Rafe finds Catherine tied up nearby and he frees her. And so Jimmy Current is dying in the corner and he tells Rafe and Catherine, go to the church, record a live broadcast, and you've got to tell the world what's happening. And he dies. So they head to the church and it's Rafe manning the camera, and it's Catherine on the stage where Jimmy Current, you know, would speak, and it's the sound tech guy. I can't remember the guy's name. He's seen briefly earlier in the film in a scene with Jimmy Current, I think he's editing with Catherine, the Lust documentary, when she sees that Lilith is missing. So you've got Rafe manning the camera, you've got Catherine on the stage, and you've got the soundboard guy. And things start going wrong with the tech, and the soundboard guy is pulled off camera, and we get a good, nice blood splatter against all the monitors. Nice little death. And so Rafe is trying to figure out what's going on, and he's trying to talk to the sound guy on his earpiece, and of course he's not answering. And Lilith appears behind him, and she's like, hey man, he doesn't work here anymore. You know, she's got blood all over her. And she quickly apprehends Rafe and handcuffs him to the railing where he was shooting from. And she basically tells him, I'm going to go kill your bitch, and you're going to watch, and then I'm going to come back and kill you. Lilith heads down to the stage. All the tech is running amok, so it's not only the camera, but there's all these lights going off, and fog is starting to go off, and that animatronic Satan from earlier is starting to pop up, and it's laughing, and it's just all this haunted house horror shit happening in the middle of this church. And Lilith comes down through the fog, and Catherine can't see her, and then there she is. And Lilith just starts smacking the shit out of Catherine. I mean, just backhanding her, bitch slapping her, just throwing her all over the stage, you know.
Catfight.
Yeah, for sure. Rafe is trying to reach the laser light, oh the Lord. So Rafe is handcuffed to this railing, and he's jumped down the other side, and he's hanging with his arm up, and he's trying to reach down with his foot, and he's trying to aim the laser light, oh the Lord, the one that went off earlier in the movie and almost killed Jimmy. How Rafe knows this, I don't know, because he wasn't there when that happened. But
Lord.
Exact. And so he's trying to maneuver this thing. He finally gets it and shoots the laser right through Lilith, and it burns right through her across. And Lilith starts to die, and then comes back up, and her face is starting to melt off, and she's starting to look pretty ghoulish, and her eyes are black, and her teeth are out.
Ugh.
And she's starting to decompose. And she goes, I guess Reverend Limpdick didn't tell you. She goes, you can tear my heart to pieces, but it won't do any good if it's still in here. The way to kill Lilith is to cut her heart in 4. That's how they resurrected her in the first place. But it doesn't work if it's still inside of her. The heart has to be removed. She's coming up to Rafe. Her face and her body is just getting worse and worse and worse. She's decomposing as she's walking towards him, and she says that she's going to rip his balls off and grind them into guacamole. Right? She finally reaches him, and she's about to kill him, and Catherine comes in with a flagpole from behind, and she stabs Lilith, and her 4 pieces of her heart come flying out of her chest, and one of them lands on Rafe, and he looks at it, and it like gives a little pop of electricity, and it's clearly dying now, and Lilith falls to the ground, and she decomposes into nothing. The practical effects look wonderful, and Lilith is dead. Catherine has saved the day. We cut to the mortuary, the bordello. Very last scene, Rafe and Catherine are with this rabbi, and we find out that they've burned Lilith's remains. Rafe and Catherine head out to their car, and they're clearly starting to fall in love, and they're kind of flirting with each other back and forth, and Rafe opens the driver's side door and lets Catherine in, and then he gets in on the passenger side, and they start kissing, and Rafe is smelling Catherine. He says, "What's that perfume you're wearing?" And he's starting to pull up her skirt, and as the audience, we see that she has 2 puncture marks on the inside of her thigh. And she goes, "It's not perfume, it's sunblock." She opens her mouth, and she's got the long vampire fangs, and Rafe's eyes go wide, and she bites him, and we get this wonderful shot of her just holding him in place and biting him, and we just kind of pan up, and our final shot of the film is of the bordello. And then we cut to the Crypt Keeper, and we get a nice ending sequence. The Crypt Keeper has won the game. The Crypt Keeper only lost his right hand. The mummy lost everything else, and it's just poor Will Sadler's head on the chair there, and he's going, "Come on, let's go again, double or nothing." The Crypt Keeper goes, "Take my advice, pal." And he looks at the camera and he goes, "Quit while you're ahead."
Oh, Lord.
And that's Bordello of Blood.
I gotta say 2 things about that ending.
Okay.
Okay, 1, usually in vampire lore, when you kill the main vampire, which would be Lilith, usually other vampires would die or turn back to normal.
Yep.
That part doesn't make sense, too. Sunblock ain't gonna stop the sun.
Well, they did that in Blade.
Well, no.
Yeah, remember the main bad guy wore sunblock, and he was envious of Blade because Blade could walk in the day.
Daywalker, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
But the sunblock shit is really, yeah, because remember he's like, you're starting to sweat or whatever, and the guy like does it, and it's got white all over him. What's his name? Wonderful actor. Anyway, but yeah, the sunblock shit is silly. And the
but as we pointed out, like, there's a lot of things that have happened throughout this movie that make no sense.
For sure.
The plot doesn't line up. Even that little clip that you showed me, I could tell. I was like, oh.
What part did we just watch? Oh, you just watched the
cat, the part where they're in the factory.
Yeah, for sure.
And when he crashes and lands on the police car, that's about where you showed me that clip. And then when they were swinging across, Vincent and McCutcheon were right at the bottom of the hallway, just looking up at them.
Like hands on their hips, them. Like all happy watching. Yeah,
the lines are even cheesy. I'm like, what the hell? This is terrible.
This is something that you put on in the background, like while you've got friends over. If you guys are like having drinks for like
a Halloween party,
spooky Halloween party, and you need something that you don't need to pay a lot of attention to. It's a lot of fun too.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm gonna have to go and watch this entire movie.
Oh, Richard, yeah,
just because I want to pick this movie apart.
Oh, it's so bad. It is really terrible. But the fact that this thing was made when nobody really wanted to make it in the first place, except for Bob Zemeckis wanted his script purchased, from the foundation of things to the production being so troubled, it's this concoction that makes this really not particularly well-made film just this beautiful mess of a movie. So go check it out. I highly recommend it. It's a personal favorite. It's not a movie you can take too seriously. And that was Horror Reels.
All right, so is it my turn to take it away,
Hell
Brian?
yeah, dude. Let's do it.
All right, time to get to the real horror.
Hell yeah.
So today, I'm going to be covering the Papin sisters from France.
Okay.
So before I get into them exactly, I'm going to tell you about their parents. So their mother's name was Clémence, not like Clements, but Clémence.
Clemence.
And their father was Gustave. So
Good names.
It's Clémence derrière, basically.
No, it isn't.
Well, it's pronounced that way.
Okay. Derre.
I took a little bit of French, but I'm not the best at it, so, feel free to make fun of me.
Drop a comment and tell Richard how good he did with his French pronunciation.
So Gustave and Clemence had a rocky relationship. They fought a lot. The father was a alcoholic. They were in love, but they slowly fell. You could tell it's like when the relationship kind of falls apart.
Yeah.
Well, she started having an affair with her boss.
Okay.
While she was dating Gustave, actually. She became pregnant, and Gustave, not knowing if it even was his or not, decided to get married to her in October of 1901.
Oh, it's maybe their anniversary right about now.
So suspecting that his now wife, Clemence, was still having an affair with the same employer, Gustave found a whole new job in another city and announced that the family would move.
Mm-hmm.
So Clemence declared that she'd rather take her own life than leave Le Mans, which is where they lived. Le Mans, France. And Gustave began to drink even worse. Their first daughter, Emilia, who was born February 12th, 1902, so a year after they got married.
Okay.
Emilia, it may or may not be the product of the affair.
Okay.
It's a little bit of a mess.
Sure.
And there's even different accounts to how this ends.
Okay.
So, Emilia was being sexually assaulted by her father, Gustave. She was about 9-10 years old.
Jeez.
Yeah, I know.
Wow. That's freaking...
Well, it's unknown if he was actually her father. So, but still.
But even it's a child. It doesn't. Oh my god.
But if he was the
fuck
father,
is wrong with people?
If it really was his father, it's even more fucked.
Sure.
In 1905, Christine was born. Her mother was not considered to be nurturing and seemed unfit for motherhood just altogether.
Mm-hmm.
She was actually given to her paternal aunt and uncle soon after birth and lived together happy for 7 years. When Leah was born, Leah Papin, the youngest sister, she was born in 1911. She was also given away, but to her maternal uncle, with she remained until he died.
So you've got Gustave.
Gustave's
right?
the father.
Yep, he's the dad. And what's the wife's name?
Clemence.
Okay. So you've got Gustave and Clemence, and they're married. And his wife starts having an affair with her boss. Okay. And so sometime shortly after they have their first daughter.
Yeah, a year later.
Okay. And in the meantime, Gustave is drinking a lot.
Drinking a lot because he married her because she got pregnant, but he's unsure if the daughter's even his.
Okay.
And so he's just like, God, I just want to drink it away. Because at the time, if a woman got pregnant, you would marry because you don't want to have a child out of wedlock.
Sure.
At the time.
Yeah, it's a shameful thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So because of that, he started drinking because he was not happy. So it happens a lot with people that get married just because they have a child.
Sure. So his drinking is getting worse and worse and worse.
Which caused him to sexually assault
Yes,
Emilia at
the
9,
first
10
daughter.
years old. Yes.
Okay, and so when was the second daughter born?
She was born in 1905.
Okay, so they've got like a 3 year
There's
difference.
Yeah, and then the youngest, which is Leah, was born in 1911, so about 6 years difference.
Okay.
So when the sexual assaults were happening at 10 years old, Clemence, her own mother, believed her daughter was seducing her father.
Oh, wow.
And sent her to the Bon Pasteur Catholic orphanage. Christine and Leah joined her soon after. Leah went to her maternal uncle. When he passed away, she went to the orphanage.
Okay.
And Christine, who was with her aunt and uncle on her paternal side, she ended up there too. They all ended up in the same orphanage.
Okay.
Clemence intended each of the girls to remain there until the age of 15 when they could be employed. So she's like, you're going to stay at this orphanage until you start making money.
Uh-huh.
And then once you start making money, you're going to send it to me.
So not even, then you can come home and...
No. Because technically she was still their mother. So the finances went to her. So in 1913, Clemence and Gustave actually divorced. And in 1918, Emilia, the oldest sister, decided to enter a convent.
Wow.
Because she just, like, cut ties. She was sexually assaulted by her father. She was sent to an orphan. She was 15 to make money for her mom, basically. I think she even changed her name. Christine, the second oldest now, right? She expressed her desire to become a nun, but her mother forbade it. Instead, she forced her into employment, which eased her into the life of becoming a live-in maid. Christine was described as a hard worker and a good cook who could be insubordinate at times. Leah was described as quiet, introverted, and obedient, but less intelligent than her older sister.
Okay.
So how...
I don't know why that made me laugh, but okay.
However, their vile and horrible mother was not satisfied with their pay and forced them to seek better paid opportunities. So they worked in many Le Mans homes and preferred to work together whenever possible because they kept getting separated. And
sure,
it's like
since they were kids.
They want to stick together.
Yeah, absolutely. So is this Depression era, 1918? I feel really silly, like I should know that. Is this Depression era?
So this is 3 years before. So this is 1926. Christine and Leah found live-in positions as maids for the Lancelin family, Madame Leonie and Monsieur René Lancelin.
Okay.
And their youngest daughter, Genevieve. So at this time, Christine and Leah were actually separated again.
Okay.
Christine went off to help the Lancelin family.
Sure.
And she did such a good job. The madam, like, was happy with her service and everything.
Yeah, she was kick-ass at what she did.
Yeah, and she goes, oh, so why don't you hire my sister? And she goes, oh, 2 of you, basically.
Yeah,
That would be amazing, you know, right? The sisters dedicated their lives to working long days. However, after a few years of the sisters working for the family, Madame Leonie developed depression, which the sisters became the targets of her mental illness. She began to scrutinize the cleaning. There was even reports that she was physically assaulting them. Like,
Damn.
You're not doing a good enough job. Whack!
Fucking smacking them around and shit.
At the peak of the abuse, she would slam the sisters' heads against the wall.
Holy dude.
Could you imagine? You're not doing a good enough job.
Yeah,
Bam!
fucking malignant and shit. What the hell? That's crazy.
So on the evening,
Wow.
of Thursday, February 2nd, 1933. So they were working for this family from 1926 to 1933.
Okay, so they both start around 1926, and they're both there roughly 7 years. Leah's a little bit less, but
yeah.
And Madame
Leonie.
Yeah, Madame Leonie is getting older. Her depression is setting in.
Probably
she's lashing out.
I would say probably the first 2 or 3 years, and then like once they hit that 4th year mark, that's about when she started deteriorating.
Wow. Okay. So she's being physically abusive to her help. All right. She's fucking slamming heads into walls and shit. Okay. All right.
On the evening of Thursday, February 2nd, 1933, Monsieur Lancelin was supposed to meet Madame Leonie and Genevieve for dinner at the home of their family friend. So Madame Leonie and Genevieve had been out shopping that day. When they returned home that afternoon, no lights were on in the house. The sisters explained to Leonie that the power outage was due to Christine plugging in a faulty iron. She was ironing clothes, and when she plugged it in, it blew a fuse.
Okay.
You know how she is about the cleaning at this point.
Sure.
Leonie became very irritated and attacked the sisters on the first floor landing, which mainly she ended up getting at Leah.
Because it sounds like she's soft.
Well, they pushed her away. Well, then the older sister, Christine, lunged at Genevieve, the daughter, and gouged her eyes out.
Whoa.
With her fingers, Brian.
Fuck.
Christine's going, Leah, get her, get the mom. And so Leah jumps on Leonie and gouges her eyes out.
So they get into a tussle. Christine jumps on Genevieve. Is that her name?
Genevieve. Christine, the older sister, jumps on the daughter of the
Jumps
family.
on the daughter and gouges her fucking eyes out. And then she's like, Leah, get
Leonie.
Yeah,
get Madam.
Leonie. Yeah, Madam Leonie. And Leah's like, got it. And they fucking killed them like that?
Hold on, no, we're not getting to that. So,
okay.
So basically what happened at this point is that she, like, went at them and was, like, shoving them. And so the sister's like, I've had enough of this. We've been doing this for years
Sure,
now.
yeah.
Slamming her into the walls. Christine runs downstairs and grabs a knife and a hammer.
I feel like I shouldn't be laughing because this happened.
I'm sorry for laughing.
No,
I'm looking at your face.
No, because I keep like trying not to laugh. But
The sisters continue to assault the women, slashing and bludgeoning them.
Dude.
At some point, the sisters grabbed a heavy pewter pitcher and used it to strike the heads in of both the Lancelin women. In the midst of their rage, they even mutilated the buttocks and the thighs of these women.
What the? Women are so...
They went
because it got fucking
mode.
personal. It got fucking personal for years, and they just got tired of that shit. And it was like, and fucking take this while you're at it.
Sometime later, the time has passed.
I feel like women in my family have done this and gotten away with it.
So... Definitely your mother. Anyway, so sometime later, Rene, which is the father, it's... At this point, you've only known him as Monsieur Lancelin.
Yeah.
It's Monsieur Rene.
Okay. Monsieur. Okay.
Monsieur Rene.
Monsieur, yeah, okay.
Anyway, returns home to find the house dark because the power is still out. So, assuming that his wife and daughter had already left for the dinner, he proceeded to go as well. When he arrived at the family friends, though, he realized that his family was not there. So, he decided to grab his oldest daughter's husband, his son-in-law, and go back to the house. About 6:30, 7 o'clock at night, the entire house was still dark, except for the light up in the Papin sisters' room. I'm talking literally, if you've seen Rocky Horror, there's a light.
Yes.
Up in the freaking top of the house, right?
Absolutely. So he comes home and there's one light on, all creepy upstairs. And it's
that's the
Papin
only,
sisters.
and it's the sisters' room, right?
Okay.
The front door was bolted shut. They found this very suspicious, obviously, and went to the local police station to summon help from an officer. They returned back to the house, where the policeman found entry into the house after climbing the garden wall.
Okay. So he gets there.
So imagine lattice on the wall. They climb over the garden. Right?
Yes.
So once inside, the officers found the bodies of Leone and Genevieve. Their bodies had been bludgeoned and stabbed to the point that they were unrecognizable, Brian.
Dude.
Leone's eyes had been gouged out and found in the folds of her scarf that was around her neck. The police officers, after they found them, right? They're like, oh, we gotta go upstairs because there's a light, right? So they run up the side. The police officer steps on something. And it's like wet and squishy or whatever. Well, it was the other eye.
Dude.
It was on the stairs.
Dude.
But
I wonder if he squished it. Like in Kill Bill when she bare toes the eye in the...
So they thought that the Papin sisters had also met the same fate. So the policemen continue up the stairs, only to find the door to their room locked. Well, the officer knocked. With no response, he summoned a locksmith. This is where the story kind of twists a little bit. There's two different stories.
Two different accounts?
Yes.
Okay.
So one is that they were found laying in bed together, fully clothed, holding each other.
Okay.
The other one, they were found together naked and kissing.
So they were either found fully clothed. They were found in bed.
So they were found in bed either fully clothed or naked.
Sure.
That's where the story kind of differs. The bloody hammer was on the nightstand next to them with hair still clinging to it.
Whoa. Dude. So they were dead or just they were alive? What happened?
So the sisters were alive.
Okay, yeah, they find the sisters and they're holding each other in their bed.
Yeah.
The fucking hammer's still there on the nightstand with blood and hair.
Yep.
Dude, okay.
So,
all right.
Under questioning, the sisters immediately confessed to the murders of Leone and Genevieve. However, they claimed it was in self-defense.
Sure.
Which could be...
It was at first.
But then they kind of brutalized
They
it.
lost their shit. Yeah, big time.
They're like, oh my god, now we can fight back finally.
They probably could have. You know what did it was the fact that they got all like witchy and personal with it, and they started fucking stabbing their butt and their all that stuff. Because if they had gouged their eyes out, even taken a hammer to them, they could have taken these two ladies out and then told the cops it was self-defense. It sounds like they were two gals that had a really rough life. It just caught a bad hand, man.
Yeah,
it's not like they were
they were forced into working. It started out really good. They were doing a fantastic job. It's just mental illness started taking over the mom, and it's just like even nowadays you can't just quit a job. You have to have a job.
You have to make it happen.
Survive.
Absolutely.
And at this time, in 1933 is right after the Depression.
This is actually during the Depression. Yeah. So this is the early 30s. These women have taken all this abuse and getting their fucking heads bashed into the wall. They finally fight back and they go overboard. Not only do they gouge these women's they like mutilate their bodies.
Well, yeah, so they didn't leave.
For sure.
So they had to put up with this abuse, and it just finally, they couldn't take it no more.
So they just went upstairs and stayed together while they could.
Yeah.
Man, that's fucking, wow, that's really awful. Jeez.
So during the trial, they protected one another. So Christine said, no, Leah had nothing to do with it. I killed both of them. And then Leah said, no, she didn't kill either of them. So they were both taking complete blame. The sisters were then placed in prison separated from each other.
Oh.
Christine became extremely stressed because she could not see her sister. At one point, the prison officials, they gave in and allowed the sisters to see each other. Christine reportedly threw herself at Leah and began unbuttoning her blouse, begging her please say yes, suggesting maybe that something incestuous was going on.
There's like eyewitness accounts of this?
Yeah.
What the heck?
That's why the story differs from when they were found either clothed or naked.
So these are two absolute
related
sisters.
And that's why it says incestuous
100%. Wow.
So if you remember correctly, the crime took place February 2nd.
Okay.
So 5 months later, Christine, the older sister, experienced a fit or episode in which she tried to gouge her own eyes out and had to be put in a straitjacket.
What the heck?
Because she wasn't near her sister anymore. They actually separated them again.
Oh my gosh, how sad.
She said on the day of the murders, she had experienced an episode just like the one she just had. And that is why she murdered the women. She tried to gouge her own eyes out, which made them actually kind of believe. Because, like, oh my god, she tried to gouge her own eyes out. That's what she did to these two women. So maybe it was an episode. So the sister's chosen lawyer pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity.
Okay.
The court appointed 3 doctors. They concluded that the two had no mental disorders and deemed them fit to go on trial.
This is fucking the mid-30s, though. Were they sure? Like, did they know?
Also, they believed Christine's affection. Remember how Christine jumped at Leah and started unbuttoning her blouse?
Please say yes.
Yeah. And that they were like, oh, there must be some incest going on here. Well, the doctors found it was just strong affection for her sister. However, during the trials of September, so now we're in September of 1933, testimony noted a history of mental illness in the family. The mother, obviously something going on with her. The father, alcoholism, to also sexually assaulting the daughter.
So this runs in their family.
Yeah. After much consideration, it was concluded that the sisters suffered from shared paranoid disorder, or also known as Folie, Deux, which occurs when groups or pairs of people are isolated from the world, developing paranoia, and in which one partner dominates the other.
Wow.
So if you wanted another example of Folie, Deux, Joker and Harley Quinn.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, Christine is Joker.
No, Leia is oh wait, yeah, right.
Christine is Joker. Leia's the submissive one.
Jurors took 40 minutes to determine them guilty of the crimes. Leah, who was thought to be under the influence of her sister, was sentenced to only 10 years in prison.
Wow. And how long did Christine get?
Christine was initially sentenced to death by guillotine.
Whoa.
Although was later committed to life imprisonment.
Oh, wait, it's France. They still did that shit?
Yeah.
Wow, in 1933.
They were doing guillotines until like 1950s.
Like public beheadings.
I don't know if necessarily public.
Okay. But even still, they were beheading people.
So yeah, the separation from Leah proved too much for Christine. She had written various letters pleading to be with her sister. However, her wishes were not to be granted. She experienced bouts of depression and madness, eventually refusing to eat or drink.
Jeez.
She continued to starve herself until she succumbed to cachexia, which is wasting away syndrome, on May 18th, 1937. Leah fared better than her sister, serving only 8 of her 10 years.
Oh, was she on...
and due to good behavior.
Good behavior.
Yep. After her release in 1941, she lived in the town of Nantes, where she was joined by her mother. She assumed a false identity and earned a living as a hotel maid. So her mother ended up coming back, and she took care of her mother. So some accounts say she died in 1982. But French film producer Claude Ventura claims to have discovered her living in a hospice center in 2000. If this was Leah Papin, from what this film producer says, she died July 24th, 2001, which would have made her 90 years old, Brian.
Dang. Can you imagine, like, living that life you like commit this crime. I don't know. It just seems like kind of a tragedy. These two gals, like, I don't know. I just kind of feel bad
tragic
for them. I know they kind of, they got, but you almost can't fucking blame them, man. All those years of abuse, and then they just like go apeshit on these two women.
Yeah, but on the bright side, though, the sisters are buried together in the cemetery Bouteillerie in Nantes, France. So it does have a little happy ending. They did end up being together at the end.
Jeez.
They're buried together at least. And that's the Papin sisters.
That was the Papin sisters. Richard, tell the people where they can find us on social media.
So they can find us at bonebarrelpod on X. You can email us at bonebarrelpod@gmail.com. You can email us any questions, any crimes or cases, movies you want us to cover.
Suggestions for future episodes. Let us know what you thought of the podcast. And we're super stoked to come back next time. Are we going to do this weekly? Is that what we're thinking? Or bi-weekly?
We're going to do bi-monthly.
Bi-monthly?
Yeah, that's twice a month. Bi-weekly would be twice a week.
No, bi-weekly is every 2 weeks.
Is it?
Yeah, absolutely. What is this? What is the definition of bi-weekly?
Here's the definition of bi-weekly.
Every 2 weeks.
Done.
Or twice a week. Wow.
Every 2
Okay.
weeks or twice a week.
Wow, that's funny. It's both.
Oh, that's weird. So bi-weekly.
Join us next time on the Bone Barrel Podcast for a review of another horror film, one that's near and dear to my heart.
And to hear about a true crime case.
Aw, yeah. Once again, I'm Brian.
I'm Richard.
And thank you for listening to Bone Barrel Podcast.